אנחנו מכריזים בזאת.
We love Mary.
All right, let's go back when you want to introduce
Go
Barry
back
again.
to Barry, Senior Associate for Republican Diplomacy at the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies, provides us with up-to-date information about Israel. He's from Netanya, Israel, which is along the Netanya is along the Mediterranean, so it's right by the sea. But everything is very close to Israel because Israel's a teeny weeny country. Barry, you're with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there we go. Now we can hear you.
Well, I hope you don't mind me, but I'm going to spoil the mood you just created.
Okay.
Because I'm really angry right now. I'm angry with Bernie Sanders, who wants the United States to be even-handed over Israel defending ourselves against a rabid, deadly terrorist organization. But actually, I want to tell Tom and Susie, in my opinion, Sanders is to the right of Omar AOC Tlaib and a new beauty you've got there in the House of Representatives, Cori Bush, who had the gall to tell the House that she stands in solidarity with Hamas resistance. Do you know what that means? She stands solidly with an Islamic terrorist mini-state that repeatedly and deliberately rockets Jews. And she wants America to stop supporting your only true ally in the Middle East.
Barry, what was that representative's name? I haven't heard that yet.
Cori, she's a woman.
Yeah.
Part of the Black Lives Matter representatives in
What's
the
her
House
name?
of Representatives. Cori, C-O-R-I, Bush, B-U-S-H. Guess which party she's from? The Democrat Party.
Yeah, well.
Crazy
Look it up.
Black Lives
Look
Matter
it up
activist.
and play the video and you'll understand word for word. I am quoting her words.
Yeah, we're
She
looking
says
at it
in
now.
her own words, she is anti-war, anti-occupation, and anti-oppression and trauma. Does this Cori Bush know exactly how Hamas got to control Gaza in the first place? They didn't control it from Israel. Israel had given the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians as a gesture of peace. And instead of allowing the Palestinian authorities to take charge as a gesture of peace, they opened up a bloody civil war against the Fatah PLO Palestinian Authority. Those they didn't drive out, they killed, and they throw them off rooftops. That is not exaggeration. They actually did that. And this was a result of a previous election, by the way. So this is what happens when we gave up territory in the name of peace. We were not occupying Gaza at that time. And now she speaks up as Hamas initiated a 3,000 rocket war against the Jewish state, an unprovoked war from us. And they're screaming about us all the time. She's a real beauty. Now, she's not the only one. You've got another one in the House by the name of Jesus. You have another Democrat representative in the House called Jesus Choi Garcia. This guy is an ignoramus. He stood in Congress and he talked about the evictions in West Jerusalem. He doesn't know anything about it. If he was talking about Sheikh Jarrah, which was originally Shimon HaTzedek, he'd know that he doesn't know his east from his west. And he doesn't know that the properties are Jewish owned and have been for a century. This has got nothing to do with occupation. So these Democrats are now both in the House and also in the White House.
And one of the things that they said, that the Arabs have said, the terrorists have said, is that they will destroy America from the inside out. And here we have Jew haters, anti-Israel Congress people, senators, right within the United States, and they are voting against Israel. And you know, you can't, the dichotomy, the difference between the Trump administration and the Biden administration is clear. And those that are within Congress, it's very clear that how hateful they are towards Israel.
Mark just found Cori Bush's video that Barry's talking about.
Good.
Let me know when it's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the meantime.
I haven't heard this yet, so I don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting, Barry, you found this before we heard about it. And it ain't getting any play in America, that's for sure.
Yeah,
And that's the problem is, Barry, is our mainstream media, they aren't providing accurate information for Americans to make good choices when it comes to elections. You know, they paint a very different picture. So, and we're having our own crisis here.
That's why you need me in Israel, to tell you some of the truths you don't get there in your own country.
Amen.
Right, right.
Amen.
And we constantly have I-24 on because that's where everyone is going to get accurate reporting on what is happening within the Middle East and specifically within Israel.
Great.
But what I'd like, with your permission, Susie and Tom, on this program, I would like to ask, in fact, demand that your followers, and I know you have a very strong followers who follow everything you say, I want them to become proactive activists for Israel by taking some of the truth and facts and repeat it to everybody, even your elected representatives. Spread it in your lying media and get the word of truth out. I heard your theologians, I was impressed with them. I want to tell them they're the sort of the people who do speak out on behalf of Israel. But I want your viewers to be more proactive about these people, even the people in your House of Representatives who lie, who take the truth and then spin sort of false fake news. For instance, this Democrat, Jesus Garcia, where he was saying that we were responsible for the hostilities and the violence on the Temple Mount, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We were provoking the violence. You know what happened on the Al-Aqsa Mosque?
Hold that, Barry, hold that issue for a moment. We're going to go to if you have a predisposition toward enmity, toward total hatred for the other side, then you have these glasses on that color everything as hatred. So if you attack them and they defeat you, they are the occupiers. Well, yeah, that's what happens. They occupy land when you lose. That's what happens. Well, they got more land. Well, you kept attacking them. It's happening right now. And so it's very, very difficult to get somebody like that who has such hatred for Jewish people to look at the facts of 1948, 1951, 1956, 1967, 1973, 2008, 2014, these things.
And the other thing is it's over 70 years. Wherever those people live, like in whether it be in Jordan, whether it be even Arafat he was born in Egypt, you know, but it's like, you know, wherever they live, it's 70 years. There's no people that were considered refugees for this long a time. You know, it's this they want to keep this.
Well, how does she account for the, and Barry has seen it because he lives, we've seen it. How do you account for the Israelis and the Arabs, Christian Arabs or Israeli Arabs living together?
Right, they live there. They live there together. And there's Ethiopia. Talk about apartheid.
Right, yeah.
They brought black people from Ethiopia, from Abu Dhabi, flew them in the middle of the night and brought them into Israel. And you know, here you have 4 Arabs that serve in the Israeli Knesset. You know what they're saying is absolute lies.
Sometimes knowledge is disheartening. We have unrest here in the United States. We have a couple of rallies planned. We're going to have one this coming Friday in Florida and this coming Sunday, a week from today, in Fort Lauderdale, pro-Israel rallies. But the street in Israel was where the demonstrations yesterday, Nakba demonstrations, a high point, or is the intensity of the Arab protesting nationwide continuing? And if so, what's taking place to slow it down?
The violence there is still going on, but greatly reduced because the police have been beefed up. You might find some sort of comparisons here with America. Over here, we want the police. Over here, we want the security people to keep our neighborhoods safe. So the government has beefed up the local police force that were inadequate in number in order to cope with the riots and everything that were going on. We brought in the border police and we brought in other things as well. And now it's being controlled in a major way. Lots of people have been arrested. Lots of people are going to be charged. It's tamping down over here, but we still need a dialogue. And still, sadly, I was on your show, Tom and Susie, a few days ago, and I implored the Arab members of the Knesset, the ones who were voted to represent the Arab street, to speak up. Now, I understand there's some quiet talk going on in the background, but they should be on TV, on national TV, and speak even in Arabic to tell them for the need for peace and quiet in order to advance the prosperity and integration of Israeli Arabs into society. And that should be done together with the Israeli Jewish members of the Knesset as well. This is the one element that is lacking, and one that is seriously in need. I want to tell you, throughout the pandemic, there was a far more meeting between the majority of the Israeli Arabs and the majority of the Israeli Jews, because we were meeting the nurses, the doctors, the people that worked in the pharmacies, who were usually not usually, but also from the Arab communities. And the dialogue there was very positive and very welcoming. And it shouldn't be spoiled by a few hooligan hotheads and extremists on either side.
All right, very, very good point.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask a question. Hey, Barry, what's going on with Lebanon and Hezbollah? Anything? And why, if they're not doing anything, why are they not doing anything? Because I thought they'd be jumping in by now.
Was that addressed to me?
Yes.
Ah, okay. We had a little incident yesterday where a number of people tried to infiltrate into Israel, but they were caught by the IDF. I don't think they were arrested and brought into Israel. They were sent back into Lebanon. We also had an incident today, this morning, in which a couple of Arabs coming into Israel from Jordan were stopped at the checkpoint, and they were found to have multiple knives and weapons in their bags. So they were going to come over here to join in the FAG as well. One of the points that has been mentioned over here quite frequently is how, in a sense, fortunate that Israel was, but it's not fortunate because we took steps, that Hamas didn't have the sophisticated and the precision rockets that Hezbollah has in Lebanon. Had they had that, their firing could have been inflicting infinite damage in the heartland of Israel, up the narrow coastal belt, and also into Ben Gurion Airport. But if we had had if they had had the weaponry that Hezbollah has had, it could have been fatal over here in a major degree. And Israel really has a problem of what to do with the weaponry that are buried under houses in southern Lebanon. They have about 120,000 weapons, rockets, missiles supplied by Iran. Some of them far more accurate and sophisticated than the ones that Hamas have.
Why hasn't Hamas attacked? Was the question. If they had, why
Hezbollah.
Hezbollah. Why hasn't Hezbollah attacked?
That's a question that's been discussed behind closed doors in security committees and things like this. And the decision is not to open another front with Lebanon right now. That is also a destroyed state in which Hezbollah basically runs Lebanon. But this is something that the international community haven't done. There are United Nations presence, not that they're effective, but there is observers going on. But they don't really bring their report, an honest report, to the United Nations. It's an issue that ought to be brought to the United Nations, not that we can trust the United Nations to take any measures. As I mentioned earlier in the show, the United Nations Security Council is going to meet in about an hour's time to discuss what's going over here. And you can be sure that it's going to be Israel that will be taking the blame so far as the United Nations are concerned.
Barry, I just got a report right now. It's 10:23 East Coast time in the U.S., 5:23 in Israel, that there's an attack terrorist attack at the Damascus Gate that just occurred right now. While we're concluding, see if you can find anything on that. But Jerusalem Jane just reported on that. She's right down in Jerusalem.
Usually a terror attack at the Damascus gate is usually an Arab or a couple of Arabs with a gun or a knife who is looking for Jewish targets to kill. And usually these terror attacks start and finish within about a minute or 2 minutes because of the security presence over there. They end that quickly. And fortunately, they usually end with the terrorists neutralized rather than dead Israelis and Jews. However, there have been many Jews killed in these terror attacks in the Damascus gates and other parts of Jerusalem. It's a regular occurrence.
I just got a report on it. Terrorist attack reported at the entrance of the old city just hours before the start of Shavuot. The ramming attack outside the gate. 6 Israeli police officers were injured in the attack. The terrorist, as you just said, was neutralized. That's the Israeli term for killed.
We call that vehicular terrorism.
Yeah, he ran into 6 police officers. So Shavuot, as you said, is a very holy time. The operations are going to continue. Also, we will have our good friend Umar Melinde, Pastor Umar Melinde on. We met him in Israel at the Shiva Hospital in 2011. Israel, a great story. So we'll have him on also during the week. Well, Susie Gold, Barry, want to thank you. Susie's going to close out the show because our big idea today was Christians standing with Israel. As a Jewish woman, your thoughts as you close the show on we Christians standing with Barry and you and the rest of Israel.
Thank God. Thank God. I just say thank God for the Christian people that are standing with Israel and that we are standing as Jews and Christians together for Israel and to stand for the side of truth. And also what we do is we work within the United States to ensure the continuation of a Judeo-Christian government, and because that's what the Constitution is founded on. And for us to merge together during this most significant time, we have more alike than we have differences. And I thank and I love our Christian extended family, and we need each other. We need each other during this difficult time. And I thank God for all of our experts and our guests that come on to provide the accurate information that we could provide everyone. Tune in every morning at 9 o'clock. And when you're not giving them a donation, give the United West a donation so that we can continue our programming and we can expand, because there is no news like this that is right up to date and that we spend an hour to sometimes 2 hours so that we can get the correct information to you so that you can in turn share it with others. And like Barry said, be active, be proactive in this situation. Make sure the correct news gets out. Make sure you contact your politicians, write them, call them, make sure that they know what your opinions are with regard to this war against Israel.
Bringing goodies for the boys at the southern border. Israel destroyed the entire navy of Hamas. They worked on it for years. All 17 outposts were just destroyed. Their attempt to hit Israel's offshore drilling rigs failed. Commander of the Naval Commando Unit of the Hamas was just killed. So the
Hamas had a navy.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know they had a
such
navy
as it
either.
was. So their navy doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
All right. Anyway,
Wow.
on that good note, we will close out the show.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
all for